All right, team, I think we're back. Thomas L., good to see you. Photos from around New York, good to see everybody. So it looks like we're probably just gonna have to stream on the OBS Streamlabs as opposed to Prism, which kind of stinks because Prism live stream is a much, much better platform, I think. But it doesn't work. I guess they fired a lot of their developers. Maybe there's nobody working there. All right, let me go ahead and close up my laptop. Ooh, you know what? I forgot to put the thing in 1080p. I think you guys are just gonna have to suffer through 720. That's okay. We'll fix it tomorrow. We gotta get going. Let me just close up the laptop and we will get right into the stream, and I'll say hello to everybody in the chat. I see Dan Zhang. Good to see you, Dan. Welcome. Yeah, we are back in New York we have a big holiday coming up. We have Christmas, and also it's Hanukkah too. So happy Hanukkah for our Jewish listeners. I think the first official day for Hanukkah was today. I think Hanukkah started, when was it? Last night. So happy Hanukkah, everybody. Yeah, Michael Joseph is 720 versus 1080, not that much difference. I think you're right. I'll see you guys on once we get to the ground floor here. Leida, always a pleasure. Charlie Richardson, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Lizzie, you're correct. It is a very special day yesterday. Oh, look at that huge menorah. You guys see that in the distance? So usually around Hanukkah, you'll see that. There's sometimes entire parades of cars. It's pretty cool. But everybody, all right, so this is the part 2 of the live stream. Hopefully you all are doing well. We are back in New York, here for the holidays. So happy holidays, no matter what holiday you're selling or you're celebrating, excuse me. This is Canal Street. We're starting off the stream on the corner of Canal and Broadway. We're going to be walking all the way uptown to the brand new Moynihan train station, where we will be headed home. Now the markets, I sort of did the review on the last live stream, but I guess we'll quickly do it again. Markets sold off and got hammered yet again. They need to catch this guy who keeps dumping the trash can. Now, if you guys remember this from the previous live streams in New York, there's some guy, I'm not sure if he's a homeless gentleman or just maybe somebody just pulling a prank or trying to be funny or cheeky or whatever. If you walk up Broadway at the start of sort of Soho here, north of Canal, after like 8 p.m., every single trash can on the block will be turned over. I'm not sure who keeps doing that. Penelope says take 2 or take 5. Good to see you, Penelope. Thank you so much. Yeah, Penelope says several other streamers have been having issues with Prism. Now, it's strange because Prism is a really good piece of software. And like you can't beat it. What we're streaming on right now is very difficult for me to read the chats. So I don't know if it's maybe Prism is becoming like a dead project. There's many very niche software companies out there that, have developers on it that just say, you know what, this project's not really making money. We're not really gonna do any updates on it. If that's the case, I would look into becoming an investor in it. Seriously, I would. And acquiring it maybe. And maybe doing some development work myself with some friends on it, because it's a really, really good piece of software. And maybe with the economic downturn, they just aren't updating it. Anyway, today in the market was a very, very rough day for the broader equity indices. We're also seeing a lot of the mega caps continue to sell off. We've been talking about this. Now look at Amazon. I think down 3% today alone. Amazon. Look at Alphabet. I think that is also testing. Another trash can turned over here. Testing its October lows. And this really coincides with what we've been talking about in relation to usually once a bull market has put in a top, let's just call it a secular top, right? I would just say, the conclusion of a business cycle. And I think that's probably appropriate to say because obviously the Federal Reserve and global central banks, not just the Fed here in the United States, but the ECB, Bank of England, are in quantitative tightening. And usually once leaders top, if you look at the data, there's about a 2% probability for former true market leaders to then emerge in the next bull cycle to become the next true market leaders. So I really truly believe that the stock prices, right, not necessarily the companies, are cooked for quite a while. I think Amazon is going to stay depressed for quite some time. I would be shocked if Amazon hits new all-time record highs before 2025. I really would be shocked. Tahoe 814, good to see you. Michael Joseph, welcome. Michael Joseph says, New York City mayor says mentally ill homeless people, you can help them by calling 311. Not to sort of go off down that line, but during my college days, we used to practice soccer on Randall's Island. And I think there was many institutions there that would provide aid and care for the mentally disabled and disturbed individuals, which I think was great. I mean, these people need to get help. But I think the previous mayor, not this one, closed those facilities down. I don't think they're in operation anymore. Anyway, hey, Vinny is here. Says, what do I think Prism is valued at? I don't know. I would need to look at the revenue there. I mean, it's a free piece of streaming software, right? And I mean, there's a lot, you guys would be surprised. I mean, there's a lot of really good pieces of software out there that just become dead projects. Here's one of them that I used to use. I think it would be kind of interesting to talk about. Oh, look at this place. Really interesting here. Just says happy holidays with a bunch of sort of clear, sort of like balls or orbs, like one of those ball pits maybe. Kind of interesting. Andresen is here, says, could Amazon spin off AWS to unlock value in the stock? I don't think they would ever spin off. That's a really good point, though. A lot of people don't, I would say a lot of people who aren't in tune with the market and don't pay close attention to it, they don't realize that the vast majority of the value in Amazon is not in the e-commerce business at all. The major cash cow is in the cloud computing business, which is AWS, right? Amazon Web Services, which competes with the likes of Microsoft Azure Cloud, as well as Google's Google Cloud. Also Oracle. Oracle is actually gaining traction. But, here's a little bit of a bear thesis for Oracle, right? Now, did everybody see the bill? I don't know if it was a bill. You guys know me. I don't really get into politics that much. But supposedly, there is some sort of a bill or a piece of legislation. It's probably not going to get pushed through, but for banning TikTok. Did anybody see that? I saw it in a Wall Street Journal clip or an article. Now, here's why that may be important on the far cry that it does get banned. Well, I believe TikTok has selected Oracle for all of their cloud computing and servers, right? So allegedly or supposedly, the argument there, we'll cross the street and walk up this way so you guys could see some of the interesting building architecture from the other side. Now, one of the main, I would say, talking points to ban TikTok is that the Chinese government has access, allegedly, to the data of ByteDance, right? ByteDance parent company. And what ByteDance says is, well, that's not true because we use Oracle servers that are obviously based in the United States. So I don't know, I just was wondering if anybody saw that. And I think maybe that could be a little bit of a bear thesis if, for the Far Cry shot, that TikTok actually gets banned. Walking Minnesota says, I think it was getting banned on government devices or something. You know, I think you're right. I think Walking Minnesota is correct. I think some specific states already banned it on specific government devices. I think you're correct. But I don't know, I saw something, and I mean, maybe you guys could look it up while we're doing the stream. I saw something, and it's a Far Cry, right? Far shot, long shot, that they're trying to push it through where it's banned in the United States. I don't think it's going to happen, if you ask me, but hey, EBITDA is here. Good to see you.
So you got 50 cents?
Nope, sorry about that. I apologize. EBITDA says, hey, Tom, hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well, too. Good to see you. It's our first day back in New York. It's a little cold, but I hope you're doing well. Market sold off again today, and I'm seeing some similarities between 2018 and today. You know, in 2018, going into 2019, we sold off harshly into Christmas Eve. I think that may have set a record for the most points, not percentage basis, but points down in the Dow. Lee says TikTok equals bread and circus. Yeah, I mean, it's a very controversial platform. I think you guys know what I think about it, but I just don't know if it would even be possible to ban it in the United States, to be honest. The dark horses, I've been saying that. Interesting. I'm trying to read the chats, but they're so small. Photos from around New York says no Santa Claus rally this year. Well, I think it was maybe Tom Lee who posted this interesting piece of data. And it may have been him, I forgot. I retweeted it, but this Santa Claus rallies usually happen, and it's kind of quite obvious, right? Sort of now thinking about it, happen during bull markets, and very, very seldom do they happen during bear markets. Very, very seldom. And the reason why I've been posting so many charts on Twitter, also there's some comparisons in historical data. If you look at a lot of the leading indicators that we talk about, like the ISM PMIs, Institute for Supply Management, PMI numbers, both manufacturing and services. We were seeing some very similar action in those leading indicators in 2018, just as we are today. I think the PMIs actually just went negative or went below 50, but we've been watching that. They've been decelerating for the past year. And the indices have also been living below the 50 and the 200-day moving average. So very, very similar action that we were seeing going into the big Christmas Eve sell-off in 2018 than we're seeing now. We'll see if it plays out. Who knows? Hawaii is here. This is Aloha Tom, Walks on Wall Street. Good to see you. Thank you so much, Hawaii, for being here. Leida says, I think the Santa rallies is when they get their year-end bonuses. Yeah, I mean, a Santa Claus rally is when the major equity indices rally into year-end, right? Now, there has been, to lay this point, though, there has been some talk about, you know, management obviously wanting the stock price propped up going into year-end, because if you're talking about compensation, generally speaking, in the C-suite, they tend to have a lot of stock-based comp and options-based comp. And in order to get the payouts that they want, the particular stock price needs to be at or above the strike, which in options lingo, you know, you have your strike price. And if you're awarded equity options, well, you definitely don't want the share price to be below the strike price at time of expiration, because then they would expire worthless. Ali Stars here. Good to see you. This is evening, Tom. Glad you're back. Yeah, so I flew back. It was actually a pretty nice flight. I think my flight took off at about 2 o'clock. We landed about 2 hours and 20 minutes later. Very, very nice, easy flight. EBITDA says, yeah, it's been a brutal December with the year-end sell-off. Hope it's not as bad as 2018. No need to apologize to the homeless guy for not paying him. A lot of equities. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you could tell when people want to like snatch and grab your stuff. I want to be GMOs is apparently Prism is owned by a South Korean firm. Oh, Naver. Oh, Naver's huge. Well, then never mind. I could never. Naver, I think, is one of the largest search engines in South Korea. I didn't know Prism was owned by Naver. Wow. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Naver may be like the South Korean Google. Susanna Q4 says, Tom, did you fly American Airlines? I did. Now, I want to try to be loyal to one airline. And as of now, I mean, American's been, it hasn't been the best, but then again, I shouldn't really complain. I don't think it's fair to complain because all the airlines are dealing with, you know, staffing shortages of pilots, shortages of flight attendants. And obviously, we're coming off a major global pandemic. So there's been ample amount of delays all throughout this year. I think I flew over 25 times this year, and I've only had 2 flights, one of which including today, that hasn't been delayed. So hopefully things work itself out soon. But I don't know, American Airlines tends to have a lot of frequent travel, or a lot of flights from Miami to New York. My favorite building is right here, or one of them, right here on the corner of Lafayette Street. Vinny Castellano is here. Good to see you. High Fades says, is this part of Soho generally pretty safe? Yeah, this is really safe neighborhood. Very high rent district too. Extremely expensive to live here. Extremely. This is a beautiful neighborhood. I love it. Now, speaking of France, Argentina, congratulations to all of our viewers from Argentina. But there's a soccer legend, right, that used to play for France and many other club teams, right? But I'm talking national team. I just realized that Thierry Henry lives right around the corner here. Never knew that. I only realized it the other day. Since we're back in New York, I got to point this out. Gasoline Alley Coffee, one of the best places in NoHo, in my opinion. Please definitely come check him out when you're here. Wow, NMB045 says, Tom, you'd be amazed about Dallas Airport. You only see American Airlines planes there. Oh, it's because of their HQ. Copy that. Yeah, I mean, you know, now if we want to talk about some anecdotal data, I know we've been talking about travel. I'm not sure who it was. It may have been Mike C in the chat that said airlines are forecasting below average travel. And if you remember, I actually had a little bit of a prediction. I said that I think this year is going to be a record-breaking year for holiday travel, just because, you know, everybody, this is the first real year where a lot of people, I would say the majority of people are, you know, they have taken all their precautions they could take in relation to the virus, and they just want to travel and see their family, right? So today the airport was packed. When I went to Miami International, the line was ridiculously long, and the place was absolutely packed. Now, my flight was also packed. There was not an empty seat on the flight. But then again, it is a very common travel destination between Miami and New York. A lot of New Yorkers who live in Miami and vice versa that are obviously traveling now for the holidays. Hey, William Brooklyn is checking in from New York City. Hope you're doing good. Thank you, William. I trust you're doing well. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
EBITDA is telling me you should check out preferred deposits. I have a couple 100K sitting in it right now, yielding 4.2%, and moving with Fed funds, instant liquidity, and FDIC insured.
I assume that's aside from your
Interesting. I'll have to check that out. Now, are you talking about like traditional money markets within your brokerage? I'm gonna have to check that out. Interesting. Okay, so Cindy Folis's American Airlines headquarters is in Dallas. Awesome. Yeah, Michael Joseph says, I don't know much about soccer, but that game was incredible. Yeah, I think the Argentina-France game was by far the best World Cup final ever. I mean, talk about an amazing, amazing final. Now, I was so lucky I was able to watch it in Miami, Florida, in a little town called Little Buenos Aires. So it was like being in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It was insane. I actually got some footage. I have so much footage from the game I want to upload to YouTube, but I uploaded a small little 5-minute clip, and that was just probably about 10 minutes after Argentina won the World Cup. And there was just so many people, there was so much traffic, the cell phone reception didn't work. It was just a crazy, crazy time there. Really, really crazy. All right, where are we at now? All right, so we are near the campus of New York University. One of the things I wanted to talk about today, and just a quick reminder, that this week is going to be very, very heavy as it relates to real estate and the housing market. A ton of economic data, anything ranging from home sales, home builder sentiment, as well as a lot of permitting data. So oftentimes on the stream, we'll talk about, as we are building out our framework, right, our systematic framework, one of the things that we look at, or multiple things we look at, I should say, are leading economic indicators. So we talk about the ISM, PMIs. We also talk about housing permits, housing start data. But today, we got the home builder sentiment surveys that came out. And obviously, I think we could all guess how that turned out. Oh, look at this park. I never even knew it was here. This used to be a vacant lot, and they turned it into a pretty nice park. Looks pretty good. It says it closes at dusk. It's a pretty nice public space here. Now, home builder sentiment dropped for the 12th straight month in a row. And this is obviously one of the main reasons is because the cost of money is going up. You know, we are coming off the back of 4 consecutive 75 basis point rate hikes as it relates to the Federal Reserve. Last week, we got an additional, on top of the 4 75 basis point rate hikes, we got an additional 50 basis point rate hike. And a lot of the speculation as it relates to the housing market, or quote unquote affordability, I'm using air quotes here, was driven by low rates, right? Very, very cheap money. So if you think about the affordability crisis we have here in the United States, you know, just 2 years ago, people could, I'm using air quotes when I say afford. I think afford is a very relative term. You know, if your budget for a home was like $450,000, well, on a 3% 30-year fixed, well, maybe your mortgage payment was under $2,000. Well, now it's double that, right? And even though rates have come down, I think last month we hit a high of 7.5% on a 30-year fixed. The 10-year U.S. Treasury has come down a little bit, but pull up a chart of the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield, not the note, but the yield. And it looks like we're actually trying to consolidate and make another push higher. The bond market sold off today. Look at this amazing view we have here. You can see all the way to the Empire State Building. Dusty Cole, what's up? Good to see you, Dusty. Jeff W277. This is barely, but still in the green still. Tiago, welcome. Robert is here. Sam says, hey Tom, enjoy the stream. You took us to NoHo and Soho. Is the Christmas section? Yeah, hilarious. I think it is. That's hilarious. It's funny. Oh, photos from around New York says the Empire State Building is lit up in Hanukkah colors today. That is correct. I think technically the start of Hanukkah was Sunday night, right? Last night, what was it, 8 p.m.? So we are now officially, I like to call it officially in the holiday season. So now we have Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah to all those who celebrate. And then Christmas is only a couple days away. It's insane. I can't even believe it. And then before you know it, it's going to be 2023. Now, as it relates to the market, there's only 9 trading days left. Think about that. There's only 9 trading days left in 2022. Can't believe it. Layla says, yes, today is the first day of Hanukkah. Layla's first candle was lit last night. Makes sense. This is Cooper Union. I very seldom I point this out to you guys, but this is East 6th Street and Cooper Square. Notice the interesting design of the building. We are headed towards St. Mark's Place. It's probably going to be really, really dead tonight because I think a lot of the college students, what is this, their finals season now, right? So everybody's probably studying really hard for finals. Yikes, that cop almost took these guys out. Did you guys see that? I don't think that police officer saw those two. I think he was trying to rush to an emergency, but I don't think he saw those two people. They were literally just missed him in the nick of time. Jeez. Yeah, Michael Joseph says that's a great design school. It is. There's another design school that maybe we'll walk past tonight. We'll see. Here we have a menorah in this park. Nicholas Sturris says, hey Tom, did you hear there's a new service coming to New York City called Link 5G? It's basically a government-funded 5G service. What are your thoughts? I have not heard about that. So maybe, are you talking about it's going to be a government subsidy to provide 5G to maybe lower income communities? Because if that's the case, then yes. And I've actually been involved in putting on those types of programs, but I haven't heard that. But maybe it's like a public sector type deal. I'll look into it, but I think it's a good idea if it's what I'm thinking about. All right. Deborah says, I think college students are on holiday break. Now, I remember when I was at John Jay, my CUNY school, I had finals all the way up until the 23rd of December. It was crazy. Joseph Hardaway says, I heard consumer sentiment isn't going to be any better 2023, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. We're going to hear consumer sentiment data coming out this week. But today, we did get home builder sentiment. So if we sort of dive into that report a little bit, this was the 12th month in a row of declines in home builder sentiment. And we've declined to the lowest levels since 2012. Now, 2011, 2012 was probably just when the market was attempting to recover from the great financial crisis. You know, chances are if you bought a home in 2011, 2012, you probably doubled your money. You did really, really good. Here we are, Cooper Square, St. Mark's Place. You have Ray's Pizza that's open 24 hours. Julia M says, I'm dying to realign my 401k, but I'm afraid that I don't understand the math enough and that if I rebalance that I'll end up losing money. Any suggestions on anyone that might be able to help? So I mean, I would just have to direct you to a financial advisor. I am not one. But I mean, here's the thing that I could say. It depends on how far out of retirement you are, right? Now, I think 401ks are a great vehicle for savings, but I think the vast majority of Americans really don't understand what's in their 401ks. And I think they need to start paying attention to that, because a lot of this stuff, and it's gotten better over the years, obviously, but a lot of the, I would say, target date funds. So if you have a 401k, get with your financial advisor and look at what you have in there, right? And chances are you'll have something called a target date fund. And essentially, it's a basket of stocks and bonds that automatically adjust itself based upon the time frame that you are out from retirement. Right, so in traditional sense, right, and this is talking in generalizations, but the further out from retirement you are, chances are these target date funds are going to be more weighted towards equities than they are bonds, right? And the closer you are to retirement, your target date fund will have a larger portion of bonds to equities. But that's not the reason why you really need to be paying attention. This is a really cool building here. I'll show you guys. Has all the very unique scaffolding. St. Mark's Place is a really, really cool and unique neighborhood. But here's why I think you should be paying attention, because a lot of these funds tend to carry very, very high fees or expense ratios. It is, especially let's say if you're older and you haven't looked at your 401k in a while and you've just been adding to it blindly, right? It's always good to save, but you know, I've seen some fees as high as 3 or 4%, and that is just going to erode your money over time. You know, compound interest works two ways, right? You can have compounding fees and, you know, compounding gains. And that is why when we talk about, you know, the likes of John or Jack Bogle, the former CEO and founder of the Vanguard Group, he sort of called all this out on Wall Street. He's like, look, the only people who are making money on Wall Street are the portfolio managers, the mutual fund managers, but the average person is losing because they're getting slammed with all these egregious fees. So I don't know, what I would do is I would take a look at it and look at look at exactly what say that. Well, I think we're buffering here. Hold on. All right, I think we may be good, right? Let me know if we're buffering in the chat. It's hard to tell on this new streaming software. Anyway, I would say, in my personal opinion, anything above 0.5%, 50 basis points, in my personal opinion, and again, I have to say my personal opinion because I could get in trouble here, I think is a big ripoff. Big ripoff. Especially if you just have a basic target date fund that tracks, you know, a broad-based indice. I think you're really getting ripped off if you're paying above 50 basis points for fees. But look, that's what I would say. You know, it's crazy because there's been many studies done that it's not necessarily what you invest in, it's the reduction in fees. I mean, think about that. I mean, just take a compound interest calculator. Imagine 2% management fee every year for over a 50-year investing time horizon. That is going to cost you probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hey, Vladimir, what's up? Vladimir says, hey, Tom, what's your top 3 Spotify artists? What does that mean? Is that just like regular musical artist? So I'll give you a good one. Now, when we started the live stream, I actually did an intro. Maybe we'll walk up 2nd Avenue. We never walk up 2nd Avenue. This is going to be a really nice view of the Chrysler building here. But I have a recommendation for everybody. Take a look at Chet Baker, his album In New York, the Riverside series. So Chet Baker, In New York, the Riverside series. I think you guys are going to enjoy it if you enjoy jazz music. Chet Baker's fantastic. Edward says, yeah, exactly. So like an ETF like that, VOO, which is a Vanguard ETF, is like 0.03%. So really, very, very dirt cheap stuff here, which is good. That's exactly what you're looking for, right? I think, in my opinion, if you were going to, just buy an ETF or a mutual fund, you really got to make sure the fees are extremely, extremely low. Penelope says, I love Chet Baker. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic music. Hey, Ken, what's up? Our pal from Canada. Good to see you. Now, it's cold here, but it's not as cold as Canada, my friend. Yesterday, I was in Miami. Actually, today I was in Miami. My flight took off at about 2 o'clock. I woke up early. I got to run in. It's crazy. I was thinking about this today. Just how sort of society has advanced just in the last 100 years. You could be in 80-degree weather, which I was this morning, and then be in 30-degree weather all on the same day. It's just really, really crazy to think about. But good to see you, Ken. Welcome. Sam says, Kyle Bass just stated that the energy sector, specifically natural gas, is the best place for your money right now, says Sam. Sam, I think I read that in Barron's this week. I don't know. I mean, I'm just, and a lot of the things we talk about is very opinionated, right? I'm just not seeing it. I look at the price action. Oil's getting slammed. It's been getting slammed. We've been talking about it on the channel. I just don't know. I think that this energy trade may be exhausted, or at least very, very long in the tooth here. And the reason why I say that is because, and this is coming right from Paul Tudor Jones, by the way, I would highly recommend everybody to study a lot of the work that Paul Tudor Jones has put out, especially like his interviews and documentary series. And he talks about trend following in commodities and other sort of tradable instruments, I should say. And usually once something is off its high, about 25%, and breaks its 50-day and 200-day moving average and stays there for more than 2.5 months, it's kind of done. The trade is over. And I think, look, I could be wrong, right? But I think that's sort of what we've seen here with crude. If you look at light crude futures, you want to look at ticker symbol CL. We're trading in the low 70s. Back in March, we were at 130. So a lot of damage has been done there. We'll see. Maybe we get a bounce, but I don't know. I think that's really going to weigh on the sector. Hey, Marcelo Gill says, hey, Tom, New York is fantastic. Miami is cool, but the best is Orlando, apart from the Hurricanes. Nice to see you live tonight. Thank you so much, Marcelo. Marcelo is our good friend from Brazil. Always a pleasure to see you as we walk up 2nd Avenue here in the Village on the east side. Hey, Ren 1018 says GameStop is the best place to put your money. Hilarious. Good to see you, Ren 10. Welcome. Pups, is summer here for Christmas? I dream of snow. I've never seen it before. Wow. So you must be in Australia, something like that. Grand Street once they are planning a new building that will be taller and block the views of the Chrysler building. I saw that. I think it may block the views of the Chrysler building from the East River, which, yeah, I guess that could impact the look of the skyline a little bit. I've noticed it's very, very quiet here tonight. Well, I guess it is a Monday night. But the city seems very quiet, which I kind of like. Julia M says, but don't the energy stocks have more to offer than just oil? Aren't they going to be moving ahead as energy companies during the whole global warming, EV, etc.? Yeah, I mean, I guess, but... And look, I think I just want to be very clear. A lot of this, what I say is these are opinionated things, right? I could be wrong, but if we think about... I just think the trade is very sort of overdone. Like everybody on the street knows about the energy trade, and usually one of two things happen, especially if you're investing in a sector that is very dependent on an underlying commodity. And you couldn't be more dependent on a commodity than, oil and gas companies, right? So if you look at an ETF like the XLE, I think over 20% of the indice. Oh, look at this little bar and grill. I think it's called The Nook. Very cool, kind of quaint place. Could you imagine living above it? All the smells and the... It could either be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how rowdy the customers are. Now, if you look at something like the XLE, I think over 20%, or maybe well over 20%, is only ExxonMobil, and then I think it's Chevron and Shell. And historically, commodities have massive boom-bust cycles, like very, very large boom-bust cycles. So if oil is going to go to 50, right, then I think that trade is done. Now, I'm not saying that these oil stocks have to collapse, 80, 90%, but I don't know, maybe it's just not the place that's going to generate a lot of alpha or beat the market. Who knows? I mean, look, I think ExxonMobil is either top 10 or top 20. It has to be at least in the top 20 in the S&P 500. So I think, in my opinion, maybe now, I think it would, on a risk-reward basis, I think it's safer just owning the market than being very all in on energy. At least right now, in my opinion. Could be wrong, who knows? That's if, you're at a job and you have an automatic buy-in to a retirement account or something like that. East 14th Street. I think we're going to make a left on 14th. And that'll take us all the way to Union Square. I think it'll be cool for you guys to see that. Dan Zhang says, Tom, ExxonMobil is around 23% of the XLA. Yeah, very high weighting. Michael Joseph says, I always get burned when I trade oil. Yeah, I'm not... Again, I think it's very... This is sort of how I'll explain it. And Mike, let me know if you guys in the chat agree. I try to stay away from... I think you have to have a real edge, right? We always talk about this. You really have to have an edge, especially if you're trading individual stocks. And I think there may be too many variables when you're trading things like oil and gas sector, right? As well as a lot of the mining stocks. So for example, gold miners, silver miners, let's just talk about really any precious metal miner, because they're very tied to the underlying commodity, right? And it's just another variable to think about and factor into your analysis, right? And I just don't think I have that edge to do that, right? My background is not in oil and gas. I've never worked at an oil and gas company. So in the market, I tend to try to stay where I think I have a little bit of an edge. And in my view, oil and gas, and especially I would say a lot of the mining stocks like gold and silver, I just don't have an edge there. I know I would never do good trading them. Oh, this place looks good. I've never noticed it here. 210 East 14th Street. Michael Joseph says, Tom, ExxonMobil did a massive buyback, didn't they? I don't know exactly, but if I had to guess just randomly, I would say probably all of the oil companies did. And they've also increased dividend payments because they had a record year. Now, let's talk about share buybacks for one moment. I think, who is that, Michael, that brought that up? Yeah, Michael Joseph. Let's talk about share buybacks for a moment, and I'll tell you why. Well, starting very soon, the first of the month, right, January 1st, 2023, this is going to, well, I think the share repurchase program, I would say space, is going to be heavily impacted because they will be subject to a 1% excise tax. So any new share repurchase program that is put on by any company, they will be subject to paying a 1% excise tax. So I think what's happening is a lot of companies are trying to stuff all of their buybacks or as much as they can before Q4 ends. And I think that's what we may be seeing here as well. I don't know, what are your thoughts about that? Anybody in the chat, this is a really nice area for selling Christmas trees here. It smells really good. You know, maybe we'll actually go over there to get some prices. I think I saw some questions in the chat about how much they cost. But do you guys think that this new 1% excise tax is going to have an impact on companies when they think about repurchasing stock? Or do you think it's going to be a non-issue? All right, this says all trees, I think it says $50. Wow, this is a deal and a half. Now, I think on our previous live stream when we were in New York, well, maybe these trees are a little bit smaller. I was gonna guess some of them were like $200, $200 to $300. That was gonna be my guess. But I guess these trees are a little bit smaller, but they still look really nice. Dan Zhang says, Tom, have you seen the videos of the Christmas trees catching fire? I have not. In the city? Do you mean someone's lighting them on fire in the city? Wow. Austin city limits is, I would have guessed $80. Jovic says it would be 4x in Florida. Yeah, it's weird because, you know what? I actually don't think that's the correct price. Because if you go to the store, I was actually in Walmart the other day. I was buying some food for the house, and a lot of the fake trees, right? You know, the what do they call them? It's not technically fake, artificial maybe. Those were like $200. I was like, what the heck? $200 for a fake tree. Nina is here. This is coming from Pasadena, California. Lost best friend from New York, 2019 to COVID. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry for your loss. It's been a tough couple of years, man, honestly. Hey, Disney cast members back. Good to see you. So Disney is in upstate New York. I wonder how much snow you have up there. Now, Buffalo, New York got hammered with the snow. Here's a really nice view of the Chrysler building if you look all the way in the distance. TPR says Costco has fake trees at $500 and more. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who in their right mind would spend $500 on a fake tree. That's crazy. Jimmy Anderson, what's up? Good to see you, Jimmy. Hope you're well. Yeah, Dusty Cole's like, Tom, when doesn't Buffalo get hammered? That's true. I think the thing about Buffalo, right, is they get something called the lake effect snow. And lake effect snow is just really, really horrible because it is very, very wet, heavy snow that accumulates like crazy. You know, just from one lake effect band, it's normal, 8 inches of snow here, 9 inches of snow here, 11 inches of snow in like a weekend, like it's nothing. It's really, really crazy. All right, here we are, 14th Street, Union Square. NMB 045 says my fake tree from Walmart was $40. Yeah, my house, I don't have a Christmas tree this year at my house. I just thought it would be too much to do, too busy this year. Now, I will say, walking around the neighborhoods in Miami, it just doesn't feel right. Well, maybe it's because I'm a little bit new to Miami, but I don't know. It just doesn't really seem like the holidays when it's 75 degrees out. It just almost looks a little bit out of place, I would say. Anyway. Now, talking about housing, I want to give you guys an interesting statistic here as the FDNY goes by. Maybe the siren broke. That was strange. Now, here's a little interesting, I would say, statistic as it relates to housing. Now, we know that home builder sentiment is cratering. If I had to guess, on Wednesday, that is when we are going to hear from the National Association of Realtors as they release their existing home sales estimates. I think that's going to be down or declining for the 12th straight month, so for a year now. But after all of that sort of negative news, I would say negative activity, we're still about 1.5 million homes short for a deficit in the United States. And if you look at the home builder sentiment report, which I would highly advise all of you do, you'll notice that a lot of the home builders have actually been saying they expect a very, very negative 2023, but 2024 they expect a very, very vicious bounce back, probably because they are forecasting maybe some rate cuts as it relates to the Federal Reserve. Now, they didn't say that in the report, but I think the time frame lines up, right? If you think about it, we heard from not one, but two Fed presidents last week, one of which was San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly. The other one was the New York Fed President John Williams. And they said specifically right out that they are going to keep interest rates held high all throughout 2023 and potentially, they said, early 2024, there is a possibility for either a pause or some cuts. So I don't know, maybe that lines up well with what the home builders had to say. Here we have another menorah here. Looks nice. Now, I believe the biggest one is actually right outside the Plaza Hotel. Maybe tomorrow night in the live stream, we'll have some time to check that out. Susanna Q4 says the W Hotel is in one of those corners of Union Square Park. Is it really the W? Let me see. Oh yeah, W Washington Square right here. Or W Union Square, excuse me. Sally, good to see you. Welcome. Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. I'm trying to read the chats, but they're so microscopic that I could barely see them. Hey, Abdullah is joining us, his gorgeous view. Thank you for joining us, Abdullah. Always appreciate it. This is a good Korean barbecue spot here. Called Barn Jew. Oh, you know what? I just remembered what I wanted to tell you guys. However, I did already tell you at the beginning of the last live stream that we had to cut short because of the technical difficulties, but I guess I think it's important to say it again. Now, here's one of the things that I look for a lot to sort of gauge overall breadth of the market, and that is a 10-day moving average of new highs to new lows. And we just recently started to see new lows really accelerate. So stocks smashing through and achieving new 52-week lows. And breadth is deteriorating in this market very quickly, very fast. Now, I said the only thing, in my view, that is really holding up and supporting the S&P 500 here is Apple. Now, look where Apple is. You know, going back to Paul Tudor Jones, what he always says, if something is hanging out below its 50-day and 200-day, it's never good news. And I think Apple now has closed below those major moving averages for over 2-3 months. It's been shopping around that area. I think Apple was down about 1.5% today, I think, maybe 1%. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple breaks the lows going into the final trading day of the year. There's only 9 trading days left, and that could potentially create a cascading effect in the indices. You can hear the subway under us. So check it out for yourselves. If you go to tradingview.com or any other preferred trading software that you use, check out a 10-day moving average of stocks making new highs versus new lows. And what you really want to see, it's called improving breadth of the market, is more particular stocks or equities, whatever you want to call them, making new highs as it relates to making new lows, or in comparison. Michael Joseph says Apple is starting to look like a head and shoulders pattern. Well, I posted a ton of charts over the past week on Twitter. So one of the things that I would do, because to Mike's point, if you look at the top 10 stocks in the S&P by weight, right? And we got to remember, you know, the S&P is a market capitalization weighted index, right? So look at the top 10 stocks by weight, and you'll see number 1 stock is Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Berkshire Hathaway, and then you go down the list, right? Tesla. Almost every single one of these, Microsoft as well, almost every single one of these stocks has formed what you call major distribution-like tops, right? So if anybody's read about or researched Richard Wyckoff, his theory is the distribution theory. Richard Wyckoff, distribution and accumulation. Do some research into that over the holidays. Check it out. I mean, Tesla has already put in a just massive head and shoulders top. I think we're down 70% from all-time record highs. I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla may not ever go back to all-time highs ever again, or it's probably going to take a couple years, which is not uncommon, by the way. You know, a lot of people think that it may be uncommon, but it's not. I mean, if you look at other conclusions of major business cycles or market cycles, once these big leaders top, either one of two things happen. It takes almost a decade for them to reach their new all-time record highs, or they never reach all-time record highs again. I mean, look, coming out and emerging out of the tech and telecom boom, right? For every Amazon and Microsoft, there was hundreds of companies that went out of business. And even though Microsoft and Amazon went on to perform very well, it took a decade for them to get back to break even. So I just think we need to be aware of that. Here, we'll cross here so you guys can see the great view of the Empire. Touring different places, good to see you. Hope you're well. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I hope you had a great weekend. Everybody, check out this view of the Empire. Fantastic. Austin City Limits' futures are in the green for tomorrow. It's good news. John Roberts says, hey everybody, it's -7 here in Wyoming. Oh my gosh. I don't think I could do that, man. I don't think I could do that. That's too cold. You know, here in New York, it's not like super freezing. It's 32 degrees, but with the wind chill, it probably feels to be in the 20s. Ian says dollar and futures are getting affected right now. Now that's another thing. The dollar is something that we need to be watching. Ramp 5, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Now that has been another thing that has been really dragging down the broader market this year. And that has been a relatively strong US dollar. But the dollar could have possibly topped. You know, take a look at the Dixie. DXY is the ticker. It is an indice that tracks the dollar's relative strength versus a basket of foreign currencies. Oh, I think we're going to see the thing I was talking about. The Hanukkah cars coming by. So this building right here is the Flatiron, one of my favorites in New York. Joan K says, hello, Tom. Good to see you, Joan. Welcome. Trust you're well. This says, love the Hanukkah bus. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, every year, they even have sort of like impromptu parades. They'll be on the stream. Okay, we are now right at the bottom of the beautiful Madison Square Park on the corner of 5th Avenue and Broadway. Really stellar shot of the Empire. I think I'm going to give this color scheme and view of the Empire a 9-9. I think once we get closer to 34th Street, Herald Square is probably going to be a 10, but amazing view here. You know, I think I'm actually going to try to take you guys to a little walk through Madison Square Park. We never walk there. And I think there's a lot of Christmas stuff. So let's try to do that. But if you guys have enjoyed the live stream so far, feel free to leave a like on the video. and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We usually go live 5 days a week at 8:30 p.m. and we'd love for you to join us. Here we are in Madison Square Park. In the distance, you'll see one of the first Shake Shacks. Oh, did anybody hear the news? Maybe photos from around New York. But did you guys hear the big news that they're going to be completely changing all of Fifth Avenue, where they're going to extend the sidewalks into the street, and it's only going to be a one lane on Fifth Avenue? Did anybody see that? Now, there's a lot of people that are obviously happy about that, but there's also a lot of people unhappy. I think they're just trying to make New York City a more walkable city, as well as build more bike lanes.
It's not open! No!
Dan Zhang. This is Dixie is tanking on Anna after the Bank of Japan released its rate decision. Did they do that today? I thought they were doing that on Wednesday. Oh yeah, I guess Japan time. Yeah, it is already Tuesday for them. Wow. So that's another interesting point, Dan, because the Bank of Japan is in stark contrast to pretty much every other central bank globally. The Bank of Japan is still in quantitative easing, whilst the rest of the world is in deep tightening. We'll get to see the Christmas tree up close here. Now, I think they have negative rates, right? What is the rate there? Nicholas Duras says, I'm sorry, but one lane Fifth Avenue is insane. Fifth Avenue is too long of a street. Yeah, I think they're just doing it near the touristy parts. So that can include 59th Street, right near the Plaza Hotel, all the way down to Rockefeller Center. Edward Adams says it's only doing it from 59th to 42nd. I think that makes sense. All right, what would you give this as a rating, everybody? I think it's an 8.3. It's a pretty good tree. Not the best, not the worst. Yeah, Leia, this is 7.5. Penelope's is 6.7. Wow, this is a really nice building here. You can tell how nice and maintained it is. Ooh, I think we're locked in. I think we got to go the other way. Let's try to go this way. Oh, Clarence Jackson. Okay, so Clarence says it's going to be one lane for cars, 2 lanes for the buses and transit. Yeah, I mean, I briefly saw it. Hopefully they're going to be extending the bike lanes, right? Wow, this is a really, really nice view from here. I never give you guys this view. And I think this gate is open. It should be just open. Let's see. Yeah, Matthew M says, what about a skateboard lane? We definitely need one of those. I think it's fair to say there should be a bike lane on every street in New York City, not just these like little dash dotted lines. All right, here's another really good view of the Empire here as we walk up Fifth Avenue. Oh, Disney cast member, now that you're here, there's your favorite mural, right to the left of you. I think this is a 10 out of 10 shot right here. Hey, Blues Writer, what's up? This is Ground Control to Major Tom, what's up? Good to see you, Blues Writer. Dan Zhang says Japanese yen actually spiked after the Bank of Japan decision. They say they will adjust yield curve control, which also tanked the... Yeah. So you know what? There's an old saying on Wall Street, though, Dan, that the first move after any Fed decision or any central bank decision is the wrong move. Has anybody heard that? They say the first move is the wrong move. And I think that's what we saw in the United States, right? Didn't just after the Fed started to speak, or Jerome Powell started to speak, we had this massive rally that was faded throughout the day. And then obviously now, you know, we've sold off at least 3 to 4 days in a row. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have, 1 or 2 days of a bounce before rolling right back over. But what I'm really nervous about is the NASDAQ. I mean, the NASDAQ is pretty much at its 52-week low. I mean, at least the Dow and the S&P are a couple, as it relates to the Dow, a few thousand points away from it. S&P hundreds of points away. But the NASDAQ, tech-heavy NASDAQ, looks like it could smash through the lows this week. The dark horse is, Tom, any old 24-hour diners left? Yeah, I'll give you 2 of them. I used to go to them a lot in my college days. There's one right on the corner of 58th Street and 10th. It's either 9th or 10th, but it's called The Flame. Oh man, that noise brings back memories. So it's called the Flame Diner. And then there's another one 2 blocks away. Oh, this is what I'm talking about. There's the Hanukkah cars or trucks. And then the other one is called the Olympic Flame. And I think they're both open 24 hours. The vast majority of the diners, though, are all out east on Long Island. And I think all of them out east are 24 hours a day. Lathos is asking him about his deck. It just looks like a basic 8.5 with skate wheels on it, park wheels. Now, when it rains or snows in New York and you have regular skate park wheels on, I mean, you're asking for trouble. It's like ice skating. Oh, there's another one. Hey, Sam Wagano says happy holidays, team. What's up? Good to see you, Sam. I want to see like all of them though. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? There's usually literally like 20, 30 trucks lined up with the menorahs in the back. It's cool. During the holidays, you'll see it. I think over the next couple days when we do these streams, we'll see it. But for some reason this year, there's only like one or two. Michael Joseph says go to Williamsburg. I'll actually be there this week. I have to drop off some gifts, like holiday stuff for clients. Oh, look at this view of the Empire. Hey, Ryan Royal, what's up? Victor Alfonso, good to see you. Bill Rowland says, I hope we see him. I think we will as we... They usually don't really go below 34th Street. They're usually more uptown. All right, so we are now here, 32nd Street. This is Koreatown. Over here you have Baekjeong and Love Korean Barbecue. Wow, Dan says, Tom, you're so right. The first move after the central bank decision, Dixie is now reversing like crazy. So the dollar's rallying now, right? Look, it's strange. I mean, we'll see where it closes, but I mean, just play that thesis out, right? If the Bank of Japan, well, what was the BOJ's decision? Did they hold interest rates or did they cut? I forget what your last comment was, but here's how I would perceive that on a macro level. Let's say if they cut rates or even held them steady, that's probably not good news for the yen, right? So you would think traders, to hedge that, they would buy dollars. Because in general terms, if you have very accommodative policy, that's really not good for your currency. So people would be looking to hedge with a stronger currency like the dollar. Oh, they kept the rate at negative 0.1%. Wow, RL says Billy Joel had to cancel his concert? No way, I didn't know that. I love Billy Joel. All right, so here we have the brand new Starbucks Reserve store, ticker symbol SBUX, right in the basement of the Empire State Building. Michael Joseph says Billy Joel canceled the Garden, lots of flu and COVID going around. You know, almost every single one of my friends is sick. And one of my good friends is a school teacher. And she says every kid, not literally everyone, but half the class is sick. And now she's sick. So hopefully I can avoid any cold, flu, all that stuff. Now, I was in Miami and I made sure I got a lot of sunlight. I went to the beach. I always feel good when running on the beach in your bare feet. I think it's, being in New York City, it may sound weird. I think people just need to get out in nature, The terminology is touch grass. You got to touch grass. Brilski says, Tom, I have COVID right now. I've had it since last Monday night. Jeez. Get well soon, my friend, please. Ramp 5's 30-day treasuries are almost 4%, 90 days at 4.22%. Yeah, we've been talking about the yield curve. We are inverted all the way through the curve. Ryan Iglesias says, what is a Starbucks Reserve? It's like a flagship store. Like, you know how Macy's or like Express, they have many stores all over the place. But if you go to the one in Times Square or Union Square, they have their big flagship stores. So they roast the coffee beans there. I think they even have a full bar. Like, you can go and drink alcohol. They're all different coffee flavored drinks and all that. It's kind of cool in there. I was in there once. Now, I think the biggest one is in Chicago, though. I think. Hey, Vala is here. Says, hey, Tom, good to see you. Welcome. Brian Forrest. Always a pleasure. So we are now walking down 34th Street. We are coming up to the largest store in the world, Macy's. I would say maybe the largest department store. I don't know about largest store. And then right next to the Herald Towers. Now, before I forget, I want to ask everybody, and we've asked before, but we got a pretty big group here. So I think we can collect a lot of good data points. Obviously, the theme of the week is real estate data, right? Housing data. And I want to know, wherever you guys are from, if you want to put it in the chat, are you at least seeing progress on prices of single family homes and even rents coming down? So let's say, for example, if you were to go on Zillow in your neighborhood, are you starting to see price reductions for maybe single family homes, apartments, or are things pretty steady? I don't know. What are you guys seeing in your neck of the woods? I guess I can sort of speak for Miami, Florida. You're starting to see a little bit, probably about 2 months ago, you started to see some price cuts. But now in a lot of the neighborhoods that I look at, down there in Miami-Dade and Broward, there's very few homes for sale. Anything of any value or any good. Disney cast member says, very reasonable here in Corning, New York. They even lowered the taxes. Really? Whoa, that's crazy. Expensive in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Noel A says 5 to 10% down in Michigan across the board. I want to be GMOs is more on the market, not much of a decrease, plus has a long way to go down for it to be perceived. Interesting. Lathos price reductions may be due by December. January will be more telling. Matthew M says Chicago is steady. Pricing. Man, this streaming software sucks. I can barely see the chats. Touring different places says everything's expensive in North Brunswick, New Jersey. Disney cast members says, meanwhile, the house you sold in Arizona went up in value by 42K. Or you sold? Not me, I didn't sell one. Maybe you sold. But nice. You know, I don't know, Disney cast member, I would think that, you know, some of those markets in Arizona, like some of the very specific markets, would probably take a bigger hit. Evan Weeks says, hey Tom, inventory is still scarce in the New Jersey area I'm looking at. And what's there gets snapped up even if it's a remotely decent price. So Evan Weeks makes a good point, and that would align exactly with a lot of the data we just got out today as it relates to the home builder sentiment. So the home builder sentiment came out today. And if you want to look at that for yourself, I forgot to program it in the Nightbot, but just Google home builder sentiment survey. They said the same thing, right? So they are having to offer, and again, this is in relation to new homes. They are having to offer a lot of incentives to get deals done. But if you look out to 2024, we're still, as a nation, about 1.5 million homes in a deficit. So we're short about 1.5 million homes. And that's the sort of thing I'm seeing in Miami-Dade as well as Broward. There are homes on the market, but the homes that are on the market, it's like they need a lot of work, like extreme amounts of work. Just nothing really too good, I would say. And I think that's one of the main reasons why, even though the Fed has been tightening at its fastest pace since 1994, we're not really seeing a drastic price declines. We're not seeing huge price declines like cataclysmic, because the supply is still really low. I mean, transaction volumes are falling off a cliff. I mean, like getting decimated, but still supply is really low. Yeah, Michael Joseph says it's amazing no one is out tonight. Now I'm thinking everybody is sick indoors. You know, I had the same thought when I arrived in New York today. Not a lot of people on the streets, but then again, maybe a lot of the tourists have gone home, right? After Thanksgiving, there were so many tourists here on the streets in New York. I'm sure you guys remember. We were doing the live streams, we were looking at it. But now, really not a lot of people. It is a Monday, I'll give it that. Monday nights are usually pretty quiet. Marcelo Gill says 5 to 10% up in Sao Paulo, Brazil due to the government. Due to the new government, January 2023. Yeah, Mike C says nobody is selling either. Yeah, Mike C makes another good point that we've been talking about, right? I think the Fed really got us into a big bind here. And I think we're going to see economic conditions be very strange. And here's what I mean by strange. Has anybody heard the saying? I don't know exactly how it goes, but usually the most entertaining outcome happens, or the outcome that is the most unexpected. Now, everybody is calling for Armageddon, housing prices to crash 70%. You see all the fear on the internet. But look, I mean, if you think about the quote, nobody is selling, right? Now, maybe they will start to sell if the unemployment rate ticks up and people can't pay their mortgages. Unemployment rate's at 3.7%. The Fed wants it to go to 5, right? So before the Fed even thinks about pivoting here, they want the unemployment rate to go to 5%. That's going to throw a lot more people out of work. They want that. But if you look at the past 14 years, right, I'll be conservative and say 10. The vast majority of people who bought property, right, and I'm talking about, single family, duplex, triplex, probably has a 30-year fixed or something, 15-year under 5%. So if we're in an environment where the Fed is going to take Fed funds to 5, right, that probably means the 10-year is going to go above 4, which means mortgage rates are probably going to be 7, 8. Well, does anybody really want to sell and just go back into the same environment with no inventory and extremely high rates? Even if you made a little bit of money, if you want to get a comparable place, assuming you're not paying cash, it's going to technically cost you more. So who knows? Maybe that could prevent a lot of people. Disney cast member, yes. Says you live in a town with a population of about 10,000 people. It's very nice up there, Disney. I just don't know if I could be that far away from the city, and I don't know if I could deal with any of that snow. But I think you like the snow, so maybe it's a really nice change. The dark horse is I'm 20 into a 2.5%. I'm staying put, fully remodeled in big equities is the dark horse. Oh my God, 2.25%. So, has anybody heard of the cockroach theory? And I think it's important to bring it up because of something the dark horse just said, right? He chimed in, he's like, well, that's the situation I'm in. You know, below 3% rates, and I'm staying put. Well, the cockroach theory is, you know, let's say if you live in a crappy, you know, frat house or like a dorm room or something, and a cockroach crawls out from under the dishwasher or the oven or something, right? And you're like, I'll kill it, just one roach. No, you can best believe that there's 10 or 20 other cockroaches back behind that counter, right? So chances are, if one person is thinking something, you have multiple people thinking the same. And I use the way I talk about the cockroach theory really relates. I usually use the analogy as it relates to corporate earnings. So for example, let's say if you're coming into a new bull cycle, and this is just an example, by the way. And let's say you're looking at semiconductor as a sector, okay? Let's say Nvidia is up first on the chopping block for earnings. They beat analyst expectations on both revenue and earnings, right? So let's say you have a beat in Nvidia. Cockroach theory says, all right, if Nvidia beat by 15% across the board, well, that means probably AMD and all of the other semiconductor stocks are probably going to beat as well. Hey, dude, this is Tom. I read on LinkedIn 70% of those got laid off in the tech sector since March have found a job, with over 50% of those doing with a higher salary. I would agree with that. And that's why statistics show that usually you should probably be jumping around. Well, I shouldn't say usually. If you're just solely going after a higher compensation, you should probably jump around every 2 to 4 years. Because if you get hired, let's say at 150 base, and your boss gives you the standard 3 to 5% raise a year, well, chances are you could go to a competitor or somebody else, and you're probably going to get a big jump, like 20%, 30% raise in your base salary. You're probably not going to get that if you stay put somewhere. Ian is like, Tom, did you get the Trump NFT yet? Oh my God, dude. I saw that and I had to quickly mute the keyword Trump. Because I just can't, it's just gonna, the media is gonna have a field day with that. But supposedly I saw it sold out. I mean, talk about the biggest nonsense in the world, guys. I mean, I don't think people are ever going to learn. Like this, again, in my opinion, a lot of this NFT stuff is just nonsense, guys. I mean, God, like talk about just total nonsense. But again, that's my opinion. I know we have a lot of people here in the chat that are big in NFTs, but I mean, I just think 99% of it is total just nonsense. So I have a rule. I'll tell everybody my rule. 90% of the time, if you have a celebrity, right, endorsing something that is an investment, it's usually complete BS, right? So you noticed, during all of the COVID craze in 2020 and 2021, it seemed like every celebrity under the sun was promoting this NFT project. And they're like, we've worked so hard on these NFTs. We've poured $1 million of our own money into this project, and we've been doing so much artwork, and it's so creative. Guys, it is just freaking nonsense. And all that stuff is going to zero. And look, I'm not trying to be mean to celebrities. I'm sure these people are great people, right? But I think cognitively, people associate somebody with like status, right? Like status for smarts, right? So I'm not saying these celebrities are dumb. They're probably brilliant people, but just because, you made $100, $300, $1 billion acting in movies doesn't mean you know what you're talking about as it relates to investments. Does that sort of make sense? So, all of these crypto projects or tokens, almost all of these are down like 90 to 100%, or they were just outright frauds as a way for, these celebrities to dunk on their following. And I think a lot of celebrities got fined, didn't they? Didn't Kim Kardashian get fined like a couple $100,000 or something for promoting these cryptocurrencies? Anyway, it's just crazy. It's nuts. The Trump NFTs. I would stay far away from that. So this is a really nice view of the Empire, right outside the Salesforce Tower here. Since there's not a lot of people out tonight, maybe it'll be safe for us to go into Times Square. When's the last time we've been to Times Square on the stream? It's probably been over 2 months. Line syncs of celebrity endorsements always make me laugh. Yeah, and I think, look, there's nothing wrong, right? I want to clarify. There's nothing wrong for somebody being paid to promote something. But where I think it gets a little dicey is when people are paid to promote investments, right? Because there's obviously real conflict of interest there. And I think the reason why they've been getting away with it as it relates to the cryptocurrency space, and this is why they've been getting away from it, or getting away with it, is because the SEC hasn't really stated yet if these alternative coins are securities yet. So a lot of the people, I'm just going to call them people, that are the head or the lead developers of a lot of these projects, I should say, they feel that they can get away with saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to, pay all of these celebrities and influencers a ton of money to promote this NFT, right? Because let's say if I sell 8,000 NFTs at $100 a pop, I could give this, person 700 grand, $1 million and make it all back within a couple hours, right? And then every time that NFT is sold again, they get a residual from that. So it's just such an easy way to make money, but in my view, it's unethical, right? And they just pretend to say that they spent a lot of time, drawing these pictures of bunnies and all this nonsense. Like, think about it. Do you ever see a celebrity promoting to buy like Apple stock? Oh, buy Apple stock. Tim Cook, I'm partnering with Tim Cook and you should buy Apple stock. It doesn't happen because it's illegal. But in the crypto world, you sort of have a gray area there. So Robert says, but what are they selling? They say like, I don't know. And I got to be careful now because the channel has grown a little bit big. I don't want to ruffle any feathers out there. But they say, oh, we have a great community and, if you buy these NFTs, they're sort of like digital cards in a way. They're called non-fungible tokens. But look, I think in some circumstances it can be valuable, but the vast majority of it is, I think, a lot of opportunists, I would say. Opportunists as a way to, capitalize on, deceiving somebody out of something. All right, we are in Times Square. This is the first time we've been here in a while. Broadway, 43rd Street. Ooh, it's actually kind of nice though. There's actually not too many people. Now here's where I do think a situation where NFTs could be very valuable. If it's actually linked back to a physical asset, right, as a way to transact them and make them more liquid. Does that make sense? And maybe even that's a stretch. But if you could just, maybe attach an NFT to like a piece of real estate, maybe it would be easier to transact that. But then I don't know how it would work with all the legalese and stuff like that. But I just don't think it works if it's not attached to something that's producing something. If it's just like a picture of, a dog, I just don't see how that has any intrinsic value. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. Now, I think this is actually pretty empty for Times Square. And it's actually kind of nice. It's not too loud. It looks great. Two-wheel freedoms is if people are paying millions for an NFT picture. I would maybe say they're laundering money. Yeah, I mean, maybe, obviously, all that's alleged, right? But I think, I think I could say, yeah, probably, yeah. Now, there is speculation. Is anybody sort of seeing, this is where they're going to drop the ball on New Year's Eve. We should be live on New Year's Eve, too. Last year was a good time. Now, there's been a lot of speculation that in the art world, like people who are buying pieces of art for 100 million, 200 million, that is potentially used for laundering. Mike C says, where the heck is everybody? It's eerie. Yeah, for Times Square, it's a little bit, I would say, I kind of like it like this though, Mike. It makes Times Square really nice. I think it looks good. We have the NASDAQ over there to your left. Noel Ace, Tom, investing in precious metals, any ideas? So I personally don't hold any. anything to really move the equity needle, right? I have some physical silver, but that's just like more of a collectible. I think for me personally, I would rather, since I consider myself relatively young, right? I'm not like super young, but on a relative basis, I think it may be more appropriate to have a higher weighting. I'm talking in a retirement account, right? A long only retirement account. I would much rather have that in equities, in companies that are producing cash flows and paying dividends, so I could reinvest the dividends and grow the account. Precious metals don't really obviously produce anything. It's more of a store of value. So maybe as I get a little bit older and I don't have a job anymore and I'm ready for retirement, then maybe I will up the allocation. But I don't know. I'll say a weaker dollar is very bullish for gold and silver. But if I had to own one over the other, I think I would own silver over gold. But I will say this. Has anybody, and I'm sure you have, central banks, not only the Federal Reserve, but global central banks, they're purchasing precious metals, specifically gold, at their fastest pace ever in history. And I think that's something very, very important to be paying attention to, because central banks are not stupid, right? They're looking at the same things that we're looking at. And yeah, I'll just say that. I think it's very interesting, the fact that the Federal Reserve and global central banks are purchasing, let's just say, gold and other precious metals at the fastest pace in history. Dallas F says capitulation tomorrow. We'll see. I got to put you guys down here for a minute, and then we're going to walk back to the Moynihan train station. Custom built American fire truck. This is Tom. Do you know the status of NFTs? Are they gaining popularity? Yeah, we just had a conversation about that. I think the majority of it is just nonsense, to be honest. And I think it's an easy way for people with a really big audience to essentially make money from them. And I don't think that's the most ethical thing. We sort of had that conversation, but I just don't see any utility. I don't see any use case to it. I think it's just kind of nonsense, to be honest. Oh, they're already selling the 2023 things again. I know, Brilski, you're correct. You know, even our physical money, to your point, our physical coins don't even really have value. Especially after the mid-1960s, the majority of our coins are made up of zinc and not really silver. So if you have a lot of silver, like pure silver nickels and quarters, I would definitely say to keep those. But now it's just mostly like zinc. And other nonsense. Can we get a quick time check in the chat? I just want to make sure I'm on time to catch the train. And hopefully tomorrow the Prism will be working. It's a real bummer that it's not, man. Austin City Limits is 11 o'clock. Wow, Benjamin says Bank of Japan announces unscheduled bond buying operation. So, more QE. Yeah, I mean, the Bank of Japan, man, they are in stark contrast to almost every other central bank out there. Japan has negative interest rates. Well, technically, we have negative interest rates in real terms, right? If you look at real rates, we are negative. Frank Garcia says, Tom, are central banks buying gold because, yeah, as a hedge against a weak currency, potentially, yeah, for sure. But if you had to ask me, even though, right, if you look back throughout history, 100% of fiat currencies go to zero over time, the US dollar has already lost over 95% of its purchasing power. But I would rather be in US dollars, right? If I was holding currency, I would much rather be in US dollars than really any other currency, to be honest. And we've sort of talked about one of the reasons why I think this. And it's really relates to talking global macro. And there's an old saying that when the United States sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold because our economy is the most robust and the strongest US economy. Look at this. 10,000 coffee. I've never seen this before. It kind of looks pretty cool on the inside. Excuse me for being super sidetracked all the time, but I'm a big coffee fan. Maybe I'll have to try this. Anybody been here? 10,000 coffee? Yeah, Robert says it looks kind of cool. Maybe it's new. I've never even seen it. I just noticed it. Yeah, Yogi says it looks futuristic. Yeah, so anyway, to what I was saying is, you know, and we've been seeing this in all the leading indicators we've been looking at, right? Look at the manufacturing PMIs. Have been rolling over for the past year. They're now below 50. And if you think manufacturing in the United States is falling off a cliff, we'll have a look at Europe. Europe is going to get absolutely leveled. So I would definitely want to be in dollars, in my view. Mike C, hilarious. Patricia Ivory, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. It's actually not as cold as I had expected. But I'm gonna try to upload more, what's it called? More of the Argentina footage for you guys. I just got to sit down in the office and do it. It was really, really crazy, and I think you guys would like to see it. So I'm gonna try to get some of that uploaded by tomorrow. Line Sync is here. Good to see you. Michael Joseph says New York City will barely miss the winter storm next week. I didn't know we were supposed to get a winter storm. Interesting. Yeah, Joe says, as a Canadian, it's funny when the New Yorkers say those New York winters are brutal. Yeah, definitely nothing compared to you guys. I give Canadians a lot of credit. I don't know how you guys do it. Because at least in New York, or I would say at least in the United States, when it's cold, we could just fly to Florida, right? I guess you guys could too, but I'm talking about, in the United States, you could be in brutal cold, you could be in the tropics, all within 3 hours, which is pretty cool. Like, it's strange. Like, we're walking around right now, it's probably 28 degrees out. This morning, it was 75 degrees, and I was doing yard work at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was 75 and sunny. I actually had to turn on my air conditioner before I left the house. Love is Kind is here. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Michael Joseph says Chicago is about to get pummeled with snow. Whew. That's another one. I don't think I could live there. Chicago. That's really, really brutal. Windy. Maybe in the summer I would like to take a visit, but I don't know. I don't know if I could do it in the winter. As you guys could tell, not a big fan of the cold. I've always been pretty big fan of summer. Hawaii. Very nice. So it takes me about 9 hours to get to New York City on Hawaii Airlines. Love that. What's the cost of a one-way ticket from Hawaii to New York? Hopefully it's under 1,000. I remember the good old days of paying $50 for a ticket from New York City to Miami. All right, so this is right outside of Macy's, headed towards Penn Station, where we'll be concluding the live stream. But if you guys enjoyed the stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We talked about the home builders sentiment today. We talked about some leading and laggard stocks. But tomorrow, or I think that may be Wednesday, Wednesday, I think is, I would say, the most intriguing piece of economic news we're going to get. And that is when we are going to hear from the National Association of Realtors as they release their existing home sales data. Twitch ASMR, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Ah, Derek Dulce, very nice. You go there every year before your birthday in July. Love that. All right, team, we will wrap it up here. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good Tuesday. To the Mighty Bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. Marcelo Gill, Dusty Cole, Michael, Laytha, touring different places. Jonathan Earl, Twitch ASMR, EBITDA, Leo. Thank you so much. Yogi, DM. Enjoy the rest of your night out and about. Thank you. Billy Johnson, and we will see you all tomorrow, everybody. Take care.